But somehow I think now, even more than ever, this new, I don't know how new it is, but it seems like a new focus of, well, we have the Spirit now, so we don't need to obey anything. We're just gonna get this feeling inside or something and be led in some way, and then we don't need to obey anything because there's no structure now. We're all personally just have our relationship with no structure. There's nothing between you and the above. There's no guidance, there's no structure. See, we know that Moses was there, and yes, of course, and we know others were there, and of course. Even those after Yeshua had structure. You only have all of Paul's writings because somebody had to write a letter or go visit him to find out, hey, what in the world are we gonna do with these things that are happening here in our congregation? Did they not have the Spirit? Then why did they need to ask Paul anything? Because that's the way it's actually structured. Discipleship is a special, intimate, close relationship between a teacher and a student where that student completely trusts that teacher in what they're studying. In other words, there is no arguing with a teacher in discipleship. You don't argue with your discipler. That doesn't mean you can't ask questions because you don't understand something or something doesn't make sense to you and you're confused. Sure, you can have that discussion, but there's no arguing. The teacher, by the way, the teacher, if you're talking about scripturally, the discipler, weren't they supposed to be a disciple from above? So in other words, they're supposed to do things similar to how it was done with them. So when you go ultimately up to the top, what do you see? You see Yahweh at the top, right? So when Yahweh is talking to Abraham about what he's gonna do to Sodom and Gomorrah, did he argue with him? No, he let Abram ask a few questions, but know what it says? And when Yahweh had finished, it was done. See, when I say a teacher, I don't mean, well, I listen to 5 different people, they're my teachers. No, I'm talking about a teacher, the teacher that you're listening to. That doesn't mean you can't listen to teachings, but if anything is said by any of those other teachers, so-called teachers, you need to always make sure it's in line with your teacher. If you have a genuinely anointed Ephesians 4:11 teacher. How do you know? That's always your problem, right? You're gonna have to pray about it. That's the one thing you should be looking to the Ruach for. And one of the things you're gonna have to really do is check yourself on whether or not you like a teacher because you like the way you feel because of what they say, or because when they say it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's really what it says. Especially if you don't like it, you're like, oh my gosh, I've had it wrong. And especially if you're like, man, because you don't like that, you're wrong now. This little thing, this tongue, you said a little word out there and you confuse a bunch of people and they start running in whatever direction, and now we got a big problem, okay? Which is why I've had to tell people, I haven't said this in a long time, but we used to say this on a very regular basis. I don't care what you believe when you start attending here, but if you believe anything that I don't teach, you need to keep that to yourself until you figure out whether or not this is where you need to be. Because I don't need you to use this as a new marketplace for your ideas. So if you come here, well, I'm a this and I believe that, or this about whatever it is, I don't need you going out there and sharing that. Why? Because the people here wanted to hear what I had to say, not what you had to say. All right? Now, some of you are clapping for that, and I get that, but you know what? Are you ready to tell the person, hey, I didn't come here to hear what you had to say, I came here to hear what Rabbi had to say. And shut them down, but you don't. You know what you do? You entertain what they're saying. Do we all understand that the tongue is nothing? The tongue is just a part of what the brain, the mind, the heart uses to communicate. So while he's talking about the tongue, he's really talking about the thinking and emotions that drive what comes out of your mouth. Don't get confused here. Oh, the tongue is evil and the tongue does this and the tongue does that. The tongue does nothing unless you consciously make it do something, so to speak. The words coming out of your mouth are something you think about. They're either coming out of a thought or an emotion combined with a thought. And that's, especially when it's emotion driven, you really get in trouble, okay? And so keep that in mind when he talks about man's not able to tame the tongue. No, he's not able to tame his heart and his mind and what's really driving that? Desire. This is about teaching and whether or not you should be, and being aware of your emotions driving your tongue, okay? Which also means that now again, this is not formal teaching, but if you are going to attack and judge your family members or friends because they're doing Easter, they're doing Christmas, they're doing whatever, that's still teaching, coming out of a bitter jealousy or self-seeking or some other self-righteous indignation you think you have, okay? And you're gonna justify that nonsense by thinking you're doing the work from the above, because I'm defending him. Where's the verse that says you need to defend him? Is there a verse in here that says he wants you to defend him? He wants you to follow him, believe him, obey him. There's no verse in here that says you need to defend him. Demonic doesn't mean you're being possessed. It's demonic, you were taken over. No. When we say things are like the wisdom from above, it means your wisdom, the things that you're doing are in line with the above. This other stuff is in line with the demonic. It's not saying that demons came in and got involved, okay? But saying that when you do these certain things, you're thinking like and behaving like the above. And when you're doing these other things, you're thinking like and behaving like demons. Fleshly, earthly, and demons. Wow, I mean, you're gonna figure that out or not? Which is why, and this is what, of course, some of you love it and some of you hate, which is why 90% of the people with microphones need to shut up. Jesus is not the Yeshua of the Bible. Jesus is the way Christianity altered and twisted what Messiah was. Okay? I mean, both the way I describe Yeshua and the way I describe Jesus is trying to describe the same being. They've just bent and twisted it so it doesn't even look like him anymore. Okay? Because they claim that this Jesus is the reason why you don't need to keep the law. When I believe Yeshua is the strongest reason you need to keep the law. We are in opposing positions, okay? He didn't come to rid you of this burden. He came to explain it more deeply and why it's important and to show you what it looks like when you do it correctly, to give it to you more fully. It starts off with verses, Paul wrote these verses here that James is writing where it says, why there should not be. He says, why are there divisions among you? There should not be. Well, because we're still doing this. We desire and don't have. These things come from the pleasures that battle in our members. What do you mean they battle in our members? Yahweh says A and I want B, and that's a fight going on inside. So you know what you end up doing? The B part comes out and you'll feel better if others agree with you before you just run off and do it yourself. You don't want to be doing B while everybody else is doing A all by yourself. So then you're going to look for susceptible people out there that you might be able to get to go over to B. So you find them in the back of the room after services or before services and look for the little crack in there where you may be able to get your little point in and find someone that's going to disciple under you and get you to believe what you believe. Now you're causing division. Find him. I'm not talking like find him, just in the vertical, but find him. Who is he working with? Everywhere in here, he works through people. Find him. Is he in a church? Is he somewhere else? Is he in a home? Where can you find him? These Ephesians 4:11 people. Because he says that we're supposed to come into the unity, belief, and knowledge, relationship of the Son of Elohim to a perfect man, to the measure, the stature, the completeness of the Son. We are not supposed to be agreeing to disagree. All the rhetoric out there today is, well, we should all just be kumbaya and we should just agree to disagree. No, we're supposed to come into full agreement. Now, you can't do that unless you're ready to obey. You can't do that unless you believe that you want to be discipled. And you're not going to argue.